I'd like to welcome everyone to today's meeting of the Council of the Township of North Dundas. There's two meetings going on today. The first will be a public meeting and the next will be the regular meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and just for everyone's benefit, especially mine, we have a new format that we're going through, and today's the first day, so there may be a few missteps and a few challenges, but it will work out in the end, I'm sure. So the meeting's been called to order, and then the adoption of the agenda. There's none of that. As far as I understand, Councillor, this is the new format. So we're going to move to the agenda. Does anyone wish an item removed from the consent agenda for discussion? Seeing not, the agenda will be adopted as presented. The motion is that the agenda will be adopted as presented. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? So I do need movers and seconders. This is what the challenges I'm talking about. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Thank you very much. Any disclosures of pecuniary interests and nature thereof? All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, we're going to move into the public meeting. We'll now enter the public meeting portion of tonight's meeting under Section 34 of the Planning Act to consider an amendment to the zoning bylaw number 12-93 of the former Township of Winchester. Everyone present for the public meeting is urged to sign the attendance sheet. Has that happened? Thank you. And now I'll invite Ms. Anderson, our junior planner, to make her presentation on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Ms. Anderson, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Fraser. Ooh. Can you hear me, Emily? Good. Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Fraser, and good evening, Council. So as you noted, this presentation that we'll be working through today contains updates on a variety of things relating specifically to this application for this apartment building at 23 Moffat Street in Moorwood. So I'll get right into it. Perfect. Okay. As described here, a reminder that under the Planning Act, only a specified person, a public body, or a registered person are eligible to appeal the decision of council. So the topic of the public meeting is to consider the application to amend the zoning of the subject lands currently zoned second density special exception 2, so that's R2-2 zone, to increase the number of permitted dwelling units from 10 to 14 and allow partial occupancy of the former gymnasium. So the subject lands are legally described as Part Lot 19, former Township of Winchester, now the Township of North Dundas, County of Dundas, on reference plan 8R-5212, municipally known as 23 Moffat Street in Moorwood. So on December 18th of 2024, a public notice for the meeting was circulated via a sign on the property, as well as a mail out to property owners within 120 meters of the property. So some background on the property. The image depicted at the bottom of the screen here shows the existing use of the property as a multi-unit apartment building containing 14 dwelling units, 10 of which are currently permitted under the current zone. The proposed use is to amend the zoning of the property to increase the number of dwelling units permitted from 10 to 14 and allow partial occupancy within the former gymnasium. Adding to the background of this property, the official plan designation is rural settlement area. The zoning is residential second density special exception 2, that R2-2. The proposed zoning is to stay the same with additional provisions within it, so the R2-2, and the area of the property is approximately 3.06 acres or 1.24 hectares. So the purpose of this application is to amend the residential second density special exception 2 zone of the property to increase the number of dwelling units permitted from 10 to 14 and allow partial residential occupancy in the former gymnasium. The effect would be to permit the increase in the number of dwelling units and to permit residential occupancy in the gymnasium that's currently prohibited. So the application is considered to conform with the 2024 provincial planning statements as it provides an appropriate range and mix of housing options within the community. It's promoting new housing options which efficiently use land and infrastructure and public services, and it's located within a settlement area that shall be the focus of growth as outlined under the PPS. The application is also considered to conform with the official plan as it's located within a rural settlement area, which is an area where low and medium density residential growth is designated to occur. And municipalities shall also make provisions for a range of housing types. So this is considered to be in keeping with that context. And now you'll see here a snippet of the zoning map depicting the R2-2 zone being the property subject to this application, as well as the residential zoning surrounding the property. So regarding comments, comments from public bodies include primarily South Nation Conservation Authority. They did inquire about the septic capacity for additional units on this property. I will note they were consulted in the township review regarding the septic system, and they did work with our consultant as we navigated this process. Some additional comments from the public. There was an inquiry regarding, well, there were two inquiries that we received. The first related to parking provisions. As outlined in this application, there may be some additional parking allocation, and they were concerned about where this additional parking would be located. At this time, we have not determined the final location of that parking. However, if there is parking provisions allocated, that would be going through amending the site plan agreement, which would occur after this particular point in time. The second public comment that we received were concerns relating to the septic capacity for additional units, as well as concerns surrounding the general maintenance of the building, such as heating and similar concerns like that. So those are the main public comments that we received to date. An additional note to council from staff. So regarding this application, as noted previously, staff have been working with the applicant's consultant, and the township consultant to review the capacity for the septic system to accommodate the additional units. Earlier this week, staff met with the applicant, their consultant, and the township consultant, as well as South Nation Conservation Authority, to discuss and address the concerns related to this application. The consensus from these meetings was that further analysis and monitoring will be required to determine the viability of servicing at this time. So at this time, staff are recommending that council defer the decision of this application for an amendment to a further council meeting or a future council meeting. Additionally, staff are presently considering placing a holding provision on the proposed zoning of the property until adequate servicing can be demonstrated by the applicant. This is something we're considering at this time. And with that, I will pass it back to you, Mayor Fraser.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. So at this point, we'll open the meeting up to questions and comments. Members of the public are asked to state their name and address for the clerk to record before providing any comments on the proposed amendment. Do we have people in the audience that wish to make comments or ask questions? No. Members of council. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. By service, do you mean you want to assess if they have enough water and a proper septic system and tile bed? Is that what you mean?
We're looking at all servicing considerations. The primary scope of this at the minute is primarily the septic servicing. There's currently concerns as to whether it's adequate to accommodate the additional units that are presently in the building, and surely if we were to adopt that under the zoning. But we are considering all servicing. There has been a review done of the well servicing in addition to that, okay, and ensuring that there's adequate water supply to the property.
Thank you.
Further comments from members of council? I neglected to mention that is the applicant present? Would they like to ask questions, make a comment? Seeing not. Now that we have heard from all that wish to make representations regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, the public meeting is concluded, and we will now resume our regular meeting. Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Mr. Paul, concerning amending the Township of Winchester zoning bylaw number 1293, the bylaw number 2025-03 being a bylaw to amend the zoning for the property to increase the number of dwelling units permitted from 10 to 14 units and allow partial residential occupancy in the formal gymnasium be enacted and passed this 15th day of January 2025. This property will remain in the residential second density special exception 2 R2. 2 zone. A mover and a seconder. Oh. Thank you. You got that? Moved by Councillor Lennox, seconded by Councillor Urick. Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser. So one of the issues that we're looking at here, and that's the key issue, is the capacity of the septic system to accommodate the 4 additional units. And peak flows is one of the key things that they're looking at to make sure that in a situation where all these units have 2 occupants per unit, that the system can accommodate that. And that's what the building code requirements are. We've been working with the hydrologists, 2 hydrologists, our township hydrologists working on our behalf, as well as the consultants, to make sure that this system can accommodate it. It was a former school. There's parts of the system that aren't being used, parts that are being overused. It seems to be either the T in the system is a little bit crooked, might be going out to one side only, than both beds, or basically the whole bed itself. The other aspect that was mentioned is the water. They did do a water test. There is some discussion still on the pump rates that are being requested. Are they adequate with what's being provided to us? And they're still going through that. So those discussions were yesterday and the day before with the consultant. So we're still trying to get that hammered out. So our recommendation at this time, we're hoping to have better answers than that up to this point for council to make a decision. So we're recommending deferral of the amendment at this time until we can get further answers. And we're looking maybe at the next meeting to bring back a holding symbol on it, where the holding would only be released if they can demonstrate that it's safe for the 14 units rather than the 10 that are approved. And those 10 were looked at back in the day. The system could accommodate the 10, but now you're adding 4 more, which is the cause for making sure it's actually going to work.
Thank you for that. Questions, comments? Councillor Urick.
I think it's just a general comment. I'm happy with the deferral. I think that's some, critical infrastructure to be aware of and note that it's going to operate, especially if you're welcoming, further residents into this building. So I'm content with the deferral.
Thank you, and I think that's what's being recommended for the safety of the residents, safety of the community, and the safety of the corporation. I think deferral is the way to go. So all those in favor of a deferral? Those opposed to a deferral? Seeing none, that'll be deferred until we have further information. Thank you, Mr. Paul. And excuse me, and we'll move right into action request and Director Paul. Bylaw number 2025-02, delegation of authority. The motion that bylaw number 2025-02, being a bylaw to delegate certain powers and duties to officers and employees of the Township of North Dundas, be passed and enacted this 15th day of January 2025. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Annabelle, Councillor Lennox. Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser. So the next one is just an update to the existing bylaw. It's more of an administrative nature. We're looking at different functions that happen on a day-to-day basis to make it go a little more smoothly administratively. One was the first for the Director of Corporate Services Clerk, special event insurance for last-minute additions. Right now, we have to wait for the next council meeting, and just the timing can wait up to a month and a half to get that insurance in place. Most of those are a couple $100. It's not a huge cost outlay, but just the process to get that quicker through. Next one was for our department, the Development Services Department. There's a release of subdivision securities held by the township. We sometimes have partial releases. They finished the road base so they could get some money back. Normally I'd come to council, get a resolution of council to release that. That takes time once again. Where the work's done, it's approved by the engineers. Get their money back to them, basically, is what that is. So that would allow me, as the director, to release those securities on the recommendation of the engineers, saying, yes, it's all done and it's adequate. The next one is the Parks and Recreation, is to bind the corporation for the liquor license applications. That gives the ability of the director to apply for and bind the corporation to get the licenses for our facilities without having to go to council every time. And the other one was the Director of Transportation to sign Ministry of Transportation documents and insurance documents pertaining to fleet vehicles. So that's more administrative. The other one was the ability to sign the municipal insurance renewals as they come up. One of the things you'll know in the budget, we are looking to change providers or change companies, particularly on that one. So that would first be done before we'd be signing that up and going through that. And the last one is all directors the authority to sign tender documents that were approved within the budget. So those are the amendments to the actual delegated authority bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Questions, comments from members of council? Councillor Urick.
These are reasonable efficiencies, like to your point, Calvin. Like, you're right. Sometimes we wait a month, month and a half, for these routine things. It holds up in some cases, our committees that are trying to do these things and they're waiting for us to say yes or no. And then, other just kind of routine, kind of bureaucratic administrative stuff that has no business being held up if it can be proceeded with. So these, as I say, reasonable efficiencies.
Thank you for your comment. I echo that as well, Councillor Urick. I think back to whenever the PC government was elected, it was red tape reduction, and I think they could take an example from smaller municipalities like ours that are actually doing that and making it easier. And the expectations of the public certainly have rightly so changed. That why would anything take so long? And really, we can't find a good reason for anything to take so long in many matters. So this is well needed, and it's appreciated. I'm sure it's appreciated by us because we understand the challenges that we present by holding things up. So if we can speed things up, that's good. So do I have a mover and a seconder? Did I ask that question already? Yep. I've already asked that? Thank you. Do I have all in favor? As I said, new challenges. All in favor, opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you, Mr. Pohl. To the consent agenda, I'll read the motion that all items listed under the consent agenda be approved/filed as recommended. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Lennox and Deputy Mayor Bergeron. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. I do believe we're going to move into boards and committees. Updates. County Council, Deputy Mayor. I don't think we've had a meeting since. That's what. Parade of Lights, nothing from me. The Garden Party Market, there are going to be some changes to the schedule for this upcoming season. When those changes are available, they will be brought forward. Art in the Waterfront, Councillor Annable.
They're still organizing, but they're well on their way. They're trying to nail down some support and advertising.
Thank you. The Historical Society, Cheshire District Historical Society. Any update?
They have a meeting on January 21st, and I think that's the first one for this year.
Thank you. Cheshire Carnival?
There is no carnival this year. It's a committee of 2. They decided to forego this year. Hopefully bring some more people on board and help bring it back in 2026.
That's unfortunate, but thank you. Green Action Gang.
Looking
Councillor
forward
Lennox.
to the spring.
Looking forward to the spring. Dairy Fest, Deputy Mayor. Downtown Committee.
No reply.
And I'm sure there's something here, the Morwood Recreation Association, Councillor Lennox.
Yeah, so the tractor parade was a success. But talking about the reality of it, the mayor and I had a great opportunity to see the generosity from the people in Morwood with all the items donated throughout the parade that went towards a great local charity, the Naomi House. And yeah, it was great. January 31st is the Winter Carnival. We're all invited. 6:30 is the opening ceremony. And February 14th, I believe that's Valentine's Day or something like that. Anyways, a horse-drawn carriage, a nice dinner, bring your significant other, or fly solo and have some fun. So that's it from Morwood Recreation Association.
Thank you. And I just, if I could add to that, Councillor, if you don't mind, the Marionville Carnival and the Morwood RA, the Morwood Carnival, the two groups have worked to ensure that they don't conflict with their schedules. And there's a competition, I do believe, between the two communities. And I think there's a competition that we are meant to be involved in somehow. I think you have the information, and you'll get that out to the council, I'm sure. So that's it for the boards and committees. Motions for consideration at this meeting. I'll read the motion. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron. Whereas the Township of North Dundas has several large capital projects in 2025 and onward that promote positive growth that would greatly benefit North Dundas, but North Dundas cannot afford the financial burden of these large projects. And whereas Lactalis Canada is an integral part of our community that supports our community with jobs who also benefit from positive growth, therefore it be resolved that staff examine options for Lactalis and North Dundas to partner together in 2025 to tackle these upcoming projects by advocating on behalf of each other to upper levels of government for support and collaboration with regards to long-term planning to ensure continued sustainable and positive growth for both partners. I'm going to ask for a seconder, then I'll ask you to expand on that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Annabelle and Deputy Mayor, please.
Okay, so this is all about water, and I don't usually talk much at meetings, but this particular topic is, but some people might term a little bit long-winded right now, so please be patient. Last month, when discussing the 2025 budget, Lachlan McDonald mentioned insurance as the elephant in the room, which it is. But the other elephant in the room is lack of water. It's not water, it's lack of water. So we've seen large tax increases in the last 2 years, 9%, 9%. And this year is looking at a minimum of 12%. We still have that under discussion. And the reason for this is that usually growth absorbs tax increases. We've had little growth. Last year, it was 1.47%, and it's mainly because we have lack of communal water. So growth did occur around the hamlets of Hallville and Moorwood and Ormond, where households are on wells. Some farmers are not happy with rural growth because they fear a shortage of water for their cows. Rural homes are not the main threat, as the water that they use from a well goes back into a septic tank and a tile bed, and it stays in the ground. So where does well water come from? It comes from our aquifers. And how do aquifers work? How do they recharge is the important thing. And it's from precipitation. So that cycle worked really well until about 50 years ago. But since then, we have thousands of acres that have been tile drained. Forests have been decimated and tile drained. So the water now on these lands is now being diverted to surface water, to the drainage ditches, eventually into the St. Lawrence River. So it's not returning to the aquifers. So out of curiosity, I actually looked up what was the average rainfall for Eastern Ontario. 900 millimeters a year is the average rainfall. And if you look at 900 millimeters of rain over 1 square kilometer, that comes to 1 trillion liters of water per square kilometers, which is being diverted to surface water. And North Dundas is 503 square kilometers. Couldn't find the data on how much land was tile drained there. But I do have data. SDG, 2/3 of the land in SDG is farmland, which most of it is tile drained. And it came to SDG farmland is 2,000 square kilometers. So I don't have the numbers for North Dundas, but a lot of water now is being diverted instead of going into the aquifer. So for the communal water, Lactalis consumes enough water to supply 3,500 homes at the moment. If we had that water, that would bring in $4.45 million in the township as tax revenue. And I'm not talking, this is just North Dundas. If it was county plus education, that would be up to $10 million per year. So, I mean, we won't be building this many buildings in 1 year, but there have been developers that have been waiting for 2 years for water allotments to go ahead with their plans. And from the planning department, I'm getting that is so far 1,715 units have been waiting to build. So if we had that water over 3 years, that would have added a few $100,000 per year in tax revenue, which would have buffered increases. Now, MPAC's market evaluation for dairy product manufacturing plants give these companies huge tax breaks. So right now, the small tax levy that Lactalis pays, it doesn't compensate for the amount of water they use. So it's costing us right now about $9 million for the new well to become online to supply about 800 to 900 new homes. If we had to provide 3,500 new homes with water, we're probably looking at close to 50 million or over. And still bringing in new wells, which just means extra straws in the same glass of water. We already have 8 straws in that glass of water. So, and some of the original ones are producing below capacity. So With current water uses and the aquifer replenishing cycle compromised, in the long term, I don't think we can depend on that glass of water. Lactalis is actually the largest dairy products processing group in the world, and they have clout. They need water to expand, we need water to grow. So, and also Lactalis has a whole government industry relations department that together with us could lobby the province to access water. I mean, we've tried on our own 3 times now, and we're just not getting anywhere. So to me, the solution is not drilling more wells. In my opinion, we need a pipeline to the St. Lawrence, which is why I'm bringing forward this motion. We need Lactalis's clout to help us to do this. And as an aside, you know, Russell and Alberta, they stagnated for years until they got water from the Ottawa River through the city of Ottawa. And so in the long term, I would like to see that happen here. And that's why I brought forward this motion.
Thank you. Questions, comments from members of council? Councillor Lennox?
Well, that's a great quote. Another straw in the glass. I like that one. I do support everything you said. I do have a question. Does Lactalis know that we want to be partners?
Yes, I did actually talk to the mayor, and I sent an email to their department to let them know that I was making, and the reasons why I was making this motion this evening.
No, perfect. I'm going to dig in and look up some of those stats as well. I trust your numbers, and I appreciate the research you put into this. Thank you.
Further comments? Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Urick?
I support the motion. I think it's a creative solution to a problem we equally share, because anybody who's anybody in this municipality or neighboring municipalities understands that there's a significant draw of water that goes to that plant, but there's also a significant return in terms of spin-off to the community, spin-off to the job market, spin-off. There's spin-offs. So I think this is a creative solution to, it's an avenue to partner and to say, hey, going down this road is in both of our best interests, right? I'm not suggesting we become Kempville Light or Barhaven 2.0 or something like that, but it's reality of the situation. We can't build a simple set of homes because we don't have water, let alone anything on a grand scale. So until we can find some level of leverage, because I think they're tired of hearing from us, to your point, Mr. Mayor. If somebody else that, what was the Premier's hat said today? That Canada's not for sale? Well, neither's North Dundas, and there's room to grow, but there's certainly infrastructure impediments right now, and I think leveraging a corporate entity such as this one in a key market in this province and in this country is to our best interest.
Thank you for your comments. Any further? So to that, and it just happens that it coincides, the deputy mayor's motion coincides quite well with what's taking place. I was on the phone today with communications at Lactalis Corporate in Toronto. We have two delegations coming up. Monday the 20th and Tuesday the 21st in Toronto at the Roma Conference. We've been granted an opportunity to be a delegation on Monday the 20th with Minister Rob Flack, the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Agribusiness, which is very key to, as we all know, very key. It's the ultimate key to survival in North Dundas, considering we're an agricultural community. So at that meeting on the 20th with Minister Flack from, as I said, it used to be the old OMAFRA, now it's changed to Agriculture, Food and Agribusiness. So I'll be attending a meeting, our CAO will be attending the meeting, we have Director of Environmental Services attending the meeting. We have the warden of SDG attending the meeting. We have the CAO of SDG attending the meeting. We have the director of plant operations from Lactalis attending the meeting, and the corporate communications person won't be able to attend the meeting on Monday. They have a previous commitment. I do believe it's a funeral. And but they will be the people I mentioned will be attending meetings on Tuesday. The meeting on Monday that the representatives from Lactalis who easily agreed to attending to support our contention that we need improvements in certain areas. The meeting on Monday is about infrastructure. We'll be talking about water, wastewater, the need to expand, and talking about different options. As the Deputy Mayor suggested, we have investigated that internally over the years, how much it would cost for surface water. But we'll be talking about that at the delegation. I'll be the only one going from North Dundas to talk about that. I mean, the only council member going. So I'll try to remember all the challenges that I want to bring up. But that's important. It's important that representatives from Lactalis go. As the Deputy Mayor talks about, it's the largest in the world, but it's the largest cheese manufacturer in Canada right here in Winchester. And they are an important entity to all of us, to anyone that's ever had a dairy farm, anyone that's ever had benefits from being involved in the community, being in agriculture, and the involvement with Alts or Parmalat or Lactalis. This is a long-standing issue, but they are on the verge of big growth at the plant here in Winchester, and they know they need to be partnering with us to ensure the viability and the hope for success whenever we talk to these ministers. To your point, Deputy Mayor, they are a big corporation. The VP of Intergovernmental and Business Affairs isn't able to attend. He's off to other meetings elsewhere, but he will be speaking, I do believe, to Rob Flack tomorrow, and he will plant the bug in their ear that we're coming to talk about this challenge. So to that, I think it's nice that the Deputy Mayor intends to have this formalized and spoken about in public, but I don't want anyone to feel that efforts have not been made and support has not been had over the past. I attended a meeting with Minister Thompson at Lactalis a year ago, and she was here to talk about the challenges we face in North Dundas. So, and that meeting was held at Lactalis, and they're always working towards their growth and support the growth in North Dundas, albeit it's the heat has turned up because of the challenges we both face. So those meetings will be going on Monday and Tuesday, and on Tuesday it's a meeting with a parliamentary assistant, and you know the person I'm going to refer to, Rick Bressy, and he's the parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Transportation, and I'll be meeting him along with everyone else I mentioned to talk about support for Liscombe Road and the rebuild of Liscombe Road to make it a better road for heavy equipment and heavy trucks to go up and down, so they don't conflict with the ag business that goes on in our community and not conflict with the residents. So we have two delegations that Parmalat will be sitting in on, and they will be, I guess, in essence, flexing their muscle by being the largest in the world and the largest cheese manufacturer in Canada, talking about the need for provincial support for Eastern Ontario, specifically North Dundas, and the importance of agribusiness in our community has to be expressed strongly in Toronto, and so I've invited them to attend to bring that along. Saying all of that, I appreciate the motion, I appreciate the formalizing of it, and I appreciate the opportunity for you to express and for me to express. Any other comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Council comments and concerns. And then we'll move into unfinished miscellaneous business, and we're going to call upon Director Pohl to start the conversation about the 2025 budget.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser. So we put together, Lachlan put together the comments, came out of our last discussion back in January. We came back from the Christmas break and put this together just to show council what was discussed and to formalize that that was what some of the decisions that were taken or some of the direction. I just wanted to ask council if there's anything that we missed with regard to that. In addition, we did get 2 new requests that came in the last few days. One was from South Nation Conservation asking for a $500 donation towards trees. They do a tree giveaway in the municipality every year, and we're hoping for a $500 donation towards that so they can increase the number of trees that are given away locally. The second, it's usually $1 a tree is the cost, so that would supply 500 trees. The next one was for the Christmas market that happened this past Christmas. It was very, very well attended. There was a request that came in for $1,000 towards that for the 2025 Christmas market. They're hoping to put on this fall or close to winter. So that's a new request that came in that we didn't have. There may be some monies to be able to be shifted. I haven't had a chance to sit down with the finance department to see if it's because there was a summer market being held and different times, is some of that money shiftable towards that or not? So that's something to work through. The other thing we'll be coming back with in the February meeting, we had a discussion internally with staff, and we had some suggestions from one of the staff members that put together the capital projects in a list for you and to show where the money's coming from, whether it's taxation or it's coming from grant money, or if it's coming from reserves that were set up for that specific purpose. I understand some of the council members spoke with some of the directors too and trying to understand where the money's coming from. If we were to cut this, does it make a difference on the budget or not? Because yes, it's coming from reserve. No, it's not going to make a difference to the tax dollars collected. So just for your purposes, we'll put that together in the next week or two and get that out to you so you can see in a nice list of where that money is coming from, how much, and what's the cost associated with it. So that'll help council making the formal decisions on certain capital projects which are put in the budget right now. That's just a summary, and we're also, so the date we put is February 12th, so we'll go through the kind of a final draft and looking at that. Whether we do a special meeting to adopt the budget thereafter will be up to council if you want to do it in early March or the end of February, depending on how long it takes us to put together what council decides on the 12th.
Right. Thank you. And I do appreciate that idea of splitting it up as towards levy, grants and reserves, and in other ways it's funded, because I know we had a discussion at the last meeting about something in Director Cheney's purview about something, and it was thought that that would be a savings for the levy, but it's not a savings for the levy. It's a reserve item, so it would just be something not had, and there'd be no savings to be had besides not having the equipment. So we need that would have been good information for the discussion, and I'm sure it was all there, but in the heat of the moment, to have it outlined in a fashion that makes it easy for me, all of us, then we can not go off on a tangent, maybe if tangent's not too coarse a word. Do we have any items that we'd like to bring up now that we have Logan with us here today?
Yeah, it's I've talked to most of you randomly throughout the last week, including some of my peers up here. I'm not saying for this budget, but maybe in the future, near future, what would it look like if we were to introduce a capital levy for infrastructure? Or how would that be introduced, and would we see the taxation actually lower per se?
So a infrastructure levy would, say, for each percentage of an infrastructure levy that we would implement would be approximately $100,000 added to the levy. However, it would also go into a reserve, at which point can be used for future infrastructure projects. In the long term, likely reducing a levy, at least for capital projects, as we would have reserved for some emergency projects or projects that we're anticipating in the future.
Great response, thank you. I know our neighbors to the south have introduced one such. I don't know when they did it, but Director Cheney explained how he received the notice one day and said, "Oh, that makes sense." And I haven't had an opportunity to explore it yet, or what the impact is, or etc. But looking at the gist of it, it makes sense where you look at our taxation, and a lot of it is preparing for things which will break in the future. And going back Deputy Mayor's point, where we have to grow our tax base, but we're in stagnant water. And things are getting more expensive, as Ms. Muirberg understands quite well with roofs and everything else. What do we do? And it's just an idea I wanted to float across council and get your input. And if we want to explore it, should staff come up with a reasonable agenda item, future date, or shoot it down, flush it down with our non-existent water?
Well, thank you for your thoughts, Councillor. I attach that. I have similar thoughts, and when I was discussing with the former mayor and the current mayor of Russell Township about how they're going to manage their new sports complex, and because it's an awful. I think the tender went out at 84 million, but we know how 84 million quickly becomes something else, and how they're going to be able to manage 84 million. They're looking forward to receiving grants, support from upper and lower governments, and the federals and the feds in the province, and they're also using that special tax levy in that township, and they've been using it for a bit, putting money aside for this new project. That new project is not new. They didn't come up with it overnight. It's been years in the making, so they've been putting money aside for years, getting ready. Now, they won't have all the money, obviously, but they will have some money to soften the blow, and I do believe it's a good practice. I think to a meeting that Mr. Pohl and I attended about recreation at a conference last year in Ottawa, and one of the gurus at that conference was talking about how Ontario funded arenas and pools, really almost to a municipality suffer the same issue. Free money was coming in, it was easy, and no one had the foresight, seemingly no one had the foresight, to have a levy in place to look after capital maintenance and repairs to those arenas and pools. And we're not unique in the challenges that we face with our arenas and pools. But this levy, I think we need to really strongly consider it, and we need to understand what it's all. We as a community need to understand what it's about. It's about ensuring that we don't get hit with big challenges 20 years after a facility is built. And so that's these things are needed, and they can be applied in different ways. But we need to strongly consider, and it's we're not inventing anything in this. This is common practice elsewhere, and I think we need to have a good understanding of how we're going to manage that, and the public has to have a good understanding of why we want to manage that to ensure that there's money available, planned for money, budgeted for money to look after the repairs of the buildings or replacement of vehicles. Upkeep, we need to be aware of that. So I'm looking forward to more discussion, Mr. Stanley, on that, more information on that, and so council can get a handle on it and then make a decision which way they want to go. I believe this is the path we want to follow, Mr. Councillor, and so I look forward to that. So anything further on Councillor Lennox's thought? Thank you. At this time, is there anything that anyone would like to introduce for the budget? Any changes, any thoughts? There's one thing I'm thinking of. We have employees that belong to the OMERS plan, Mr. Stanley, and I'm interested in finding a way that those employees that aren't able to continue contributing to the OMERS pension would be able to continue in some fashion contributing to a pension. Some of us are able to contribute, and some employees and members aren't able to. So I'd like to see that we even that playing field, and that we all have some level of equity whenever we go down that path. So if you can consider that for the next meeting, I'd appreciate that. Anything else? Okay, before we get up, I just want to extend congratulations to a member of the team, to Director Cheney, Jamie Cheney, who is now an associate road supervisor. And congratulations to Mr. Cheney for taking the AORS course, going through the process, and receiving a level of education that's going to benefit all of us, and make your job tougher and easier at the same time. You understand the challenges, but you have a better idea of how to get over them. So I want to thank you on behalf of council. I want to thank you on behalf of the community for taking that extra step and bringing more to the table when we have discussions about the challenges we have with roads. Was there anything you'd like to comment about the course?
Thank you, Mayor Fraser, and to members of council. Nothing I'd like to add to it. It was challenging, I guess you could say, and on to the next step. So the next step will be the full certified road supervisor, which will take some time. You have to have years of experience, and there are some more courses in that to take. So over the next few years, definitely be looking at that, and hopefully get to the next step. So thank you very much for recognizing that.
Well, again, thank you for taking that. It adds to the level of professionalism and competency and confidence that we have staff that are pursuing to better their understanding of the challenges. So thank you. Thanks again. So now we'll move into closed session. Council proceed to closed session at 5:16 p.m. pursuant to Section 2392 of the Municipal Act 2001, subsection D, labor relations or employee negotiations. Excuse me, specifically employee negotiations. And just for the people that are here in person in attendance, after we return from that, it'll be a ratification bylaw and then an adjournment. So there really will be nothing else on the agenda besides that, the ratification and the adjournment. So stick around if you like for that, but not necessary. So I'll read the motion. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Rigg, seconded by Deputy Mayor. That council proceed to closed session at 5:16 p.m. pursuant to Section 2392 of the Municipal Act 2001, subsection D, labor relations or employee negotiations, specifically employee negotiations. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none. It's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and take care. mic? It was on. I just speak quietly. And the next motion is the staff proceed as directed during closed session. Do I have a mover? Councillor Lennox, a seconder, Councillor Ehrig. I'm going to move into the ratification bylaw, the bylaw number 2025 to confirm the proceedings of council as regular meeting held on January 15, 2025 be adopted as passed. A mover and a seconder. Councillor Annable, Council Deputy Mayor Bergeron. Jeepers, I'm flying through this. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none. I'm going to go back one, Madam Clerk, to the going to go back to number 12. The motion was moved by who? Number 12 for open session? All those in favor of returning. And proceeding was from? Thank you. And all those with proceeding as directed, all those in favor? Opposed, seeing none, that's carried, so I covered all of those. The adjournment, the council adjourn at 5:45 p.m. to the call of the chair and mover. Councillor Lennox, Councillor Ehrig, seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? Council adjourn at 5 to call the chair. That's no one opposed. That's carried. Thank you. Wow. So anyway, thank you very much for those that were here, those that paid attention online. Until next time, take care.